You do like it? I love it, yeah.
Now when you go pre-owned, you can enjoy the same feeling you get with a new Toyota. Tested and backed by Toyota.
Upgrade your car, mate.
This? Yeah, no big deal.
Toyota certified. Pre-owned in a class of its own. Oh, what a feeling. Toyota.
After round one of the simrigs.com Oz Pro-Am Sim Series at Silverstone, we head to Sebring to keep this S thing going on, apparently. Great to be here with a lot of GT racing ahead of us in Pass 2, in GT4, and in the Pro and Am categories of the Pro-Am Sim Series. So we find ourselves at iRacing's recently updated Sebring International Raceway. The textures are all shiny, the track's all shiny, and hopefully some great racing ahead of us. Thanks for joining us on SimSpeed TV. I'll find the right button. David Haynes with Dan Yeaman, Jay Kennedy doing our production, all of our replays, and he's going to be a pretty busy boy tonight. So are our drivers. This track is a lot of work, Dan.
It sure is, Mr. Haynes. Thank you for the introduction, and good to be back with you in the comms box as we take a look at the track map here from Google. Let's zoom on down to the Floridian Peninsula of the good old United States of America, and just outside the town of Sebring, they're almost smack dab in the middle of Florida.
About 40 minutes south of Haines City.
Of course it is. Well, there you go. How about it? Well, converted US Army base. Now very much a world-renowned racetrack here at Sebring, and I've seen plenty of action here over the past week or so. Of course, the iRacing Sebring 12-hour coming up this weekend as well to keep things rolling, and no surprises that we're here tonight with AusPass to allow the drivers, at least in the Pro-Am, to maybe get some extra GT3 practice in before the events of this weekend come to pass, Mr. Haynes.
Yeah, exactly. Circuits chopped and changed a couple of times, but the Ullman Straight remains the Ullman Straight, and that's one of the most famous parts of this circuit. The old concrete blocks that make up the old runway sections. Sort of in the middle of the lap, you get a little more onto a permanent road course. Classic bits, other classic bits. This is what Pass 2's standings look like after the opening races at Silverstone. Simon Mazzomo from Timothy Fabian, Jacques Swanepoel, Seth Brown, Hilton Booth, Michael Spithill, Brady Buchanan, Lee Vandenberg, Mark Cochran, and Sean Lacey. And you see the different manufacturers there. And with all of the performances of round one taken into account, the customary change to the rolling balance of performance in this class. And that sees the dominant Porsche get clipped just a little bit. McLaren gets boosted a little bit, and the Aston Martin and the Mercedes AMG. Very minor changes there, and all that combined should make it very, very close once again here at Sebring.
It should, yeah. I mean, always been a staple of AusPass with the adjustments to the power output of these cars. Have to say, definitely surprised to see that the Porsche Cayman did so well last week at Silverstone, given the introduction of the Mercedes AMG and the Aston Martin Vantage GT4s to the category. They have generally seemed predominant from a distant perspective, but good to see that drivers indeed making that Cayman work still. And we'll be curious to see how it goes here at a track like Sebring with such a power requirement or power demanding circuit affecting things, as we've just coming to the end of qualifying. Unfortunately for the onboards we've jumped to here with your provisional pole sitter Bo Albert, made an absolute meal of turn one, Dave. So this lap here is Dave's going to be a bit of a wash, indeed, well past the elapsed time, as Barney's got the checkered flag in hand there, and we'll be off to the grid in just a moment's time as the last couple of drivers. Well, in their case, Mazzomo's case, pulls into the pits. See if Carl Gretsch can make an improvement in that number 19 Infinity Motorsport Mercedes.
We'll see. Barney's got the checkered flag. It is a pretty big lap around here. I would have thought that the characteristics that make you good at Silverstone would make you pretty good at Sebring as well. Both of them known for their long straights. There's a cute little drag race between Hilton and Booth. And might have been Vandenberg or someone like that. A couple of teammates in those liveries around. Yeah, very slippery Florida grass here as well by the looks of that. It's Jacques Swanepoel, currently 9th. Is this going to get around in time for a lap?
He's got just over under a minute, I should say. So yes, most definitely will be done in time. Well, that's very deep through Sunset Bend. That will surely compromise some time here as he brings the car to the line. It'll be a 212.981. That unfortunately looks like that final corner might have been a little costly there, as it's about 3/10 down on Swanepoel's best in the qualifying session. Only 10 minutes here tonight in pass 2 to get the job done has meant that the drivers only got about 3 or 4 laps in as a result. And with that, looks like the track is more or less clear, so we can head to the grid.
Yep, and we're racing endurance style, of course, setting ourselves up for great racing happening at the iRacing Sebring 12-hour this weekend, and it means we're straight into a 40-minute race for pass 2, and that makes this qualifying maybe a little more important than other rounds. Bo Albert on the pole position from Seth Brown, Sam Muir, Jason Bentz. It's a lot of Mercedes up front, but then you get to the Porsches on row 3, Simon Mazzomo and Sean Lacey. And then we have Pat Gallo, I think, in 7th. Indeed, it is, with Richard Mayer. So a couple more Porsches there again. And Mercedes of Jacques Swanepoel, Porsche for Timothy Fabian. Adam Hill Motion shaking it up there with the McLaren. Certainly a car that looked like it had good legs at the end of the straights at Silverstone, and hoping to do likewise here at Sebring. Rob McGrath completing row 6 in Mercedes. Then over the page we have Patrick Panton, Hilton Booth. Yeah, those two drivers, the first Aston Martins on the grid there in 13th and 14th, and then Paul Longworth, Brady Buchanan, Mark Cochran, Jack Anderson. And it's a popular track, Sebring, and it sort of tis the season for it as well. So it's a good grid here with Carl Gretsch, Stu Brown, Greg Panson, Aaron Maguire, the last driver with a qualifying time. We still could see Matt Hardigan, Hayden Jackson, and Simon Dwyer for this one. 40 minutes then, huh? It looks like we're going to get a very lengthy Sebring pace lap as well. Good thing we've got a Porsche GT3 safety car.
Indeed, the Porsche iRacing pace car to take the field around, but it gives us time to, I guess, yeah, just brush up on what you said there, David. 40-minute race tonight for pass 2. None of the 2-race affair that was seen at Silverstone last week, so this is going to be pretty strategic in mind. We should expect 2 pit stops here in pass 2 this evening. Of course, all the drivers running on fixed setups in this series, and we'll be limited to probably at most, I think it's 15 minutes of fuel, if I'm not mistaken. Although then again, pass 2 being new this season, I'm a little rusty on how things played out last week, unfortunately.
Of course, last season pass 2 was run with GT3 equipment, and now making this change to give us more diversity of racing to watch. Pass 2 has gone GT4 to then set us up for Pro-Am in GT3s. Pretty good, and doesn't seem like any of the Aston Martins had stunning qualifying pace, but they have had just a little bit added to them. We know that the McLarens had some Porsche spec air restrictors given to it. It'll hopefully be able to stretch those legs on the pit straight and the Allman straight. Of course, the run from turn 5 down towards the big braking zone at turn 7, where the field is heading now. Best overtaking opportunity on the lap.
It absolutely is, and yeah,
Ask
as
me
you
how
said,
I know. No.
yeah, absolutely. As you said there, it's very much Mercedes AMG dominated field. In fact, the entire top 10 is Mercedes AMG GT4s or Porsche 718 Caymans. So clearly, despite the adjustments that the BOP made after Silverstone last week, still very much dominant cars amongst the drivers so far. But again, those obviously the BOP coming from race results means that it is about who can deliver over the course of a race length, and does mean that tonight it will be obviously doubly important given we just have the one race for each of the past two and Pro-Am.
Yeah,
So,
a couple different formats in play across the season, isn't there? So we had what we'd consider a sprint round to kick things off. There's some wildcard rounds coming up, and hopefully we can actually refresh our memory on that schedule now, because this at Sebring is one of the Enduro rounds. Apparently we will have a lookie as the drivers continue their pace lap of Sebring. Yeah, Enduro round here at Sebring, and then one more later in the calendar at the Nürburgring Nordschleife combined 24-hour circuit Gesamtstrecke, as they, call it there. Wildcard next week at Zandvoort, and then again at Road America. Apparently the Toyota GR86 next week at Zandvoort.
yep, we are getting out as part of the wild card for this season. Yeah, the good old GR86 also newly updated to the new damage model as well. So parts may go a-flying. Hopefully they won't, but I guess you never know. And well, actually, no apologies. For Pass 2, we'll be seeing the Formula V out on track. And it'll be the GR86 for Pro and AM class. So we won't see, unfortunately, the multi-class wildcard shenanigans that we get to see usually in AusPass. But nevertheless,
it's about time, isn't it?
We'll get that later. You guys will get that later on in the season when the good old GTO returns. But we'll talk about that some other time, David, because here they come, round Sunset Bend, ready to take the green flag.
Front row of Bo Albert and Seth Brown giving a bit of space to the pace car for it to pull into pit lane, and as the whole field 2x2 round Sunset Bend, 40 minutes on the clock for Pass 2 at Sebring. Green flag drops and the GT4s roar into life, and that is a very good jump from the third row there, I see as well. So we'll see how it works with cold tyres for everyone heading in towards turn 1 on a very, very hot piece of Sebring pavement. It's good for your pole setter, but it's not so good behind, as Seth Brown is going to slide out into the grass, just kiss the Armco, and the whole rest of the field will roll on past. That is not a great way to capitalize on a good qualifying, and it means Jason Bentz has gained 2 positions from 4th up into 2nd on this race start. Clearly, that's Hilton Booth in one of the Aston Martins. How well will that go as we get into this race proper? Defensive from Pat Gallo there. Simon Mazzomo in a fellow Porsche looking to dive down the inside at turn 7. Won't make it work.
It was really unfortunate to see there for Seth Brown, and with no race control intervention through safety cars, that is pretty much his race done from a performance standpoint, given how we saw the front of the field in qualifying looking pretty pacey there. He's going to have his work cut out if he wants to make it up towards the front. As to the inside of Mazzomo goes Pat Gallo, then that hot pink 333 Mercedes, and well, one of the first of the Porsche Cayman, oh sorry, not Porsche Cayman, that was a McLaren 570S, I thought, trying to make its nose stick, but then when I go and look for it, not showing up on my timing, it's started Hill Motion back in 11th.
Now
Lacey and Mazzomo
back.
going side by side, yeah.
Mazzomo was
Yeah.
dropped back behind Lacey and Gallo there, so he didn't quite get tower turn right by the looks of it. Tough to get a slowdown out there, but very easy to misread the banking, and 2 of them around. A couple of other drivers trying to avoid this. You've got Gallo and Lacey and another car out there amongst all of that as well.
My word, that was something else there as they came round the corner at Le Mans for the first time. Apologies there, the hot pink Mercedes, that belongs there to, and is the, look forward if I can, it was very wide for Hill Motion through Sunset for the first time. That's Jack Anderson. Apologies. Jack Anderson up 13 spots on the opening lap. I should add there in the 319 Infinity Motorsport machine. He has picked his way through the carnage and is now getting himself, top 5 spot and threatening for P4 here on the exit of turn 1 because Phoeben is tapping the brakes through the corner. Hasn't been
we had
able
this
to
last
clear.
week. We had this last week. Get the man a can of compressed air for his load cell pedal, and there's a big drama.
Oh,
at the
no.
exit of turn 1. Don't know exactly what started that, but you've got Hayden Jackson the wrong way around. You've got Seth Brown trying to cut his way through that. So he's gained some of those positions back. And as we look here at what happened for Brown in the 500, under a lot of pressure here, looking at the pole sitter on the inside. Of course, it's cold tires. It's a very bumpy turn 1, and we've seen the Mercedes GT4 be very, very tail happy.
Yep. Ben's got close, but certainly kept his space through the corner. And unfortunately, as you said, that rear end letting go on the driver of the number 500 as we're back at live pitches and halfway around the second lap of the race. And Albert not able to break away from Bent, and also got Sam Ewer trying to go with there in the 19 MX wraps. Mercedes up front to, make it all TriStar machines on the podium for now. But early days, I'd say early days in this race, David, but with 8.5 seconds back to the best of the rest, as you were with Timothy Thieben, thanks to everything that's happened on the opening lap and a half, and the fact that we won't see safety cars, it's going to take either big mistakes from the top 3 or massive pit strategy errors for the group behind, I would argue, to reel them in, because those Mercs should still be good in a straight line despite their slight power drop for this week.
It's amazing how far first, second, and third can get away when fourth and fifth crash into each other, and the rest of the field have to avoid that. There's Bo Albert in his safety gear, but he's got Benson all over him. I keep getting thrown for a curveball that we've got Muir and Mayer in this field. And certainly we know that just because the other driver's right at your rear bumper at this stage at the race doesn't mean you're necessarily under a whole heap of pressure, with a lot of pit stops and strategy still to come. If you're saving better, if you're looking after your tires better than the other driver, that's an advantage that might help you out, might help you get away from them later in the race. Long turn 6 is flat out, and then the track straightens out to the braking zone at turn 7, slowest corner on the track. Great view from the hotel, and you can see turn 7 from the hotel bar.
I'll keep it in mind. Just a couple of drivers, unfortunately, taking 2 very early stops in this race, and I wouldn't be too shocked if that's pretty much entirely down to getting damage repairs done at this early point in the race. As we switch back to our leading 2, almost dropped Muir in this, what was a 3-way drive. You can actually see also on the timing tower, but his shuffling has happened in the group behind. It's now Simon Mazzomo up into 4th place, your championship leader after last week's running to get the season underway.
Going backwards as well. He was up in 5th, and something's seen him drop back behind Mayer, Haven, Mazzomo, etc.
It's back at turn 1 in the early parts of the lap. Just had a little bit of a wiggle and lost a bit of momentum.
Really long, fast corners that the Mercedes seems to struggle, and maybe the suspension, the tire rolls over a little bit and it starts to run out of grip at the rear. Doesn't seem to struggle so badly with traction out of slow corners, although it does have traction control for that. It's the high-speed stuff where it starts to get in trouble. That's Fabian around the outside getting past. That's Adam Hill Motion having a dive down the inside on the bumps in one of the very, very few McLarens in play. And pit lane is also in play. Jason Bentz is pitted from 2nd, and Fabian also pitting.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to watch here if that undercut is of value to these drivers. And they're on their 4th lap of the race, and we're already coming up to 10 minutes in. They won't have all that much more fuel left in these cars tonight. They can put in up to, well, depending on the car, I should say, they can put in a certain amount. For the Porsche Cayman that I chose to spectate the session off of, it's 44 litres, which is a good chunk more than their starting fuel.
I chose to spectate with the McLaren. I owned just the Porsche and the McLaren. And I was like, normally load in with the Porsche. Let's load in with the McLaren.
Interesting. Just having a quick look at the session setting information. Looks to me that fuel has been uncapped, actually. So that might explain why drivers are coming in so early. You can make this a one-stop race in that case, well and truly, because, of course, these cars will do around, if not a bit more than an hour on a tank of fuel. So just due to the fact that they start with way less than said tank.
Yeah, GT4s like TCRs start big tanks, but less horsepower than a GT3. They get through it less quickly. We've got a lap sound car here that's been confuzzling a few. Like we've got Brady Buchanan there, Hilton Booth now slotting in between the middle of that, and for as wide as the pit straight is, as wide as the Ullman straight is, it does get a little narrow through some of these parts of the track around Cunningham and Tower Bend and that part of the track.
It does, yeah, you're not wrong. And I think lap car drivers, they're trying to get out of the way at this point and do the nice thing, but you've got drivers who are trying to carry speed and stay up to it. And actually just seeing in the now interesting here, got just looking in game messages at the moment here, David. A GTG from Jason Benz.
Yeah.
Which
we all know is French for "I gotta go, I'm out of here, peace."
But also Timothy Phoeben. Despite the fact that I don't think there is no flags or issues with the 888 Mark 1 Cayman, has also retired from the session. So we are unfortunately already down to, well, we found Maguire still circulating, just a lap down. That means we are down to 23 drivers participating at this point, unfortunately.
Now, unless I'm reading this wrong, I don't feel like I'm on board a McLaren, but we are hunting down Simon Mazzomo for third at the moment. Third of the cars that haven't pitted. Hanson Hardigan stopped, Lacey, Jack Anderson in the pit lane at the moment. Looking like a very long stop for Jack Anderson. That's been an interesting little story for him, isn't it? Gained so many positions in the opening lap, started dropping back a little bit, and I do wonder if he's maybe had a little problem with tire changing or too much fuel or misreading something around that, because he's had 42 seconds when almost everyone else is sort of in the mid-20s, and a lot of them less than what you see for Sean Lacey, who's obviously just jumped in through that.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. So I'm going to suggest tires for some reason were enabled for Anderson's car.
It's driving like it's on cold tires. Look at it.
Yeah, skating around. Also in further bad news for Seth Brown, trying to recover, has picked up a mechanical black flag, and unfortunately, whenever it happened, it seems to have also been a moment he dropped out on my end personally, some point on his 5th lap in this race. So can't quite say what's caused the meatball for that Pursuit Sim Racing Merc. Also,
leaders pit. So Boel and Samuel are in, and others are presumably very likely to follow them. There's Mazzomo and Mayer in the background. These cars do have lane speed limiter. Not every car does. It's a pretty quick pit lane speed limiter, 72 k's an hour. The pole sitter is always going to look to find his pit crew at the very far end near the pit exit end. And here comes the whole rest of the field of everyone else who hasn't stopped yet. Let's look at Seth Brown. Oh, nope.
Oh. So unfortunately, we do lose him there, but, well, the way his car swings in is pretty telling. As there was a car there up on the jacks of the drivers in the pit lane. Hilton Booth opting to make some moves there. Unfortunately for Adam Hill Motion in that McLaren, he's made a bit of an error on pit entry, David, and it's copped him an iRacing black flag. So that will.
Why would Zach Brown let this happen?
The 101 McLaren tumble back in the order a bit. I just want to see here, has he got that for being a little bit too greedy on the way into the pits? Oh no!
One of the things that happens is sometimes you push out a little too wide in the corner and have to cut back across the the hatching at pit in.
Unfortunately, that's not the case. He actually got it slowed down so effectively, he then gassed it up and forgot to get on the button before the line and oversped in his efforts to catch back up to the speed that he had lost on the way in before the line. He dropped it down to about into the 50km/h range. Realized he'd been a little bit too cautious, and then he'll gas it here again. Oh, on the downshift too, and oh no, that's not engaged the pit limiter like Adam Hillmotion was probably hoping for.
He's hit the limiter in second gear before he's hit the pit lane speed limiter, and that's a weird little mistake, and it's costing him pretty big time if we're even gonna see him again. So through all that first round of pit stops, quite a bit of change in the field and some different stop lengths from who wanted to take tyres versus who didn't, and your pole sitter and race leader didn't. Bo Albert out to 4 seconds now, and got to keep an eye on if there's anyone with one of those longer stops that starts coming back at him. But it has spread the field a little bit in places. Brady Buchanan is up 10 spots from where he started in 6th. Hilton Booth and Sean Lacey here, and Booth had one of those longer stops, so I wonder if he opted for either just a very safe amount of fuel or maybe 2 or more tyres.
Yeah, that will be... That will be interesting to know, I think, over the course of the race. I wouldn't think tyres would be necessary in a 40-minute sprint, but conditions are pretty interesting, or warm, I think is the way to put it. Early March.
Outlap, because Lacey stopped 1 lap earlier, and you can see how much more confidence through the corners Lacey has got. So I wouldn't be surprised then if there is some cold tyres on the Aston Martin, but it does have good straight line punch.
It does, up that extra 0.5% after last week versus the 1% lost for that Cayman. But
that's what I'm talking about. He's just got to be a little more tentative than some of the other cars.
I mean, it's also one of the things here, of course, with this GT4 class is that the power doesn't seem very high. So you often lean into the traction control probably more than you would in a GT3 class type car. As well as also with the way the traction control and ABS have been tuned for this series via the setup, means that, yeah, you're going to get into situations where, and tyres being cold as they are as well, we're going to be seeing these situations here where drivers are having to really be careful as they get these cars back up to speed. Give it maybe another lap tops, and we'll see if Booth can get that Aston underway. I mean, on top of it too, David, that Aston's got some interesting gear ratio selections, which make for some funky moments. Speaking of them, Jack Anderson at P10 currently. I've almost got the rear of Paul Longworth down at the hairpin. Thankfully, no contact made.
Yeah, so after that long stop for Anderson, looking to gain positions, but that attempt just then didn't work. It's down at turn 7. Yeah, that's not quite it.
Thankfully, not close enough to get a bit of target fixation and lock onto that rear bumper of the number 4 Mercedes. All in all, just looks a little close for comfort as we focus back in on Booth, Lacey, and Gallo as they work their way through the Le Mans corner. Meanwhile, Kyle Gretsch, already been to the lane once in this race, will come back to the pits again.
One of the other ones I noticed who's been through twice, Brady Buchanan, immediately came back after the lap after his first stop. I wonder if he had an unsafe pit exit, sped on the exit, something like that. See Longworth now closer, now lining this one up on Jack Anderson through Sunset Bend. Anderson out a little wide, but sometimes out there is less bumpy than the inside.
Other way around, David. Other way around. Apologies. That was Longworth tries to hang it on the high side, but no dice. Speaking of high side, low side, there you go. Lacey looking up the inside of turn 1 there on Booth, but no dice. We'll have to get back in line and reset. But Pat Gallo wants a piece of the puzzle in that 333 Cayman. No chance there through turns 3, 4, or 5 this time round either, though. But they still keep in touch with that Aston Martin, so they'll drag each other along the road just that wee bit more.
Leader stretching out the gap a little bit, so it's from 6th place here and some of the battles behind where the racing is most close, most fierce. It's very close here. Lacey getting a little more impatient, especially as Pat Gallo has started to close up on the both of them and sandwich him in here, put some pressure on here. Feels like he can brake much deeper, but he's braked too deep and he's gone out wide onto the grass. And he's going to lose a fair chunk of time. Here comes Anderson Longworth. Jacques Swanepoel racing up through the field just like he did last round, and Seth Brown there as well. So that's about where he rejoins, actually, that whole crew of 4. Looks like they get through.
Slots in behind Stuart Brown in that 981 Aston Martin. And yeah, so that has cost Lacey a good 10 odd seconds. Trying to find a safe spot on the track there to rejoin, unfortunately. So does reintegrate himself into another battle, but it is now battling over 12th place there rather than 6th place like he was. And it's also packing up in behind Jack Anderson. So 319 of Anderson, number 4 of Paul Longworth, then Swanepoel there in that Froglit juiced 121 Mercedes, and Seth Brown looking for redemption. Gets his nose to the inside. Actually, Swanepoel gives him a lot of room inside of Sunset. And they just about exchange spots. There we go. Just across the start finish line, they will switch positions. And that will be that into turn 1 this time by at least.
Had a pretty nasty bump in the middle of Sunset Bends. Did Seth Brown, and that stalled out some of his momentum. Looking down the inside. 3's not going to go into turn number 3. And a little bit of contact. They're lucky to get away with that as they did.
Well, that almost was almost the one drama and disaster of the race.
I thought you were going to suggest it was a little, you know, IMSA GTP replay. But thankfully not. All a little tidier and cleaner. Really compressing in this middle section of the field. I think we are starting to see the effect of some of the quicker drivers who took tyres either get their tyres back in the window or start to see some advantage from that and racing back towards some of the drivers who went a shorter fuel-only stop but might have been initially behind. Replay here of Pat Gallo on Hilton Booth. And this Porsche is far more confident on the brakes into turn 7, hooking that apex just perfectly, and up into 6th he goes.
Yeah, no big surprises there. The Cayman, smaller, slightly more nimble, is going to be able to get that car stopped a little better than these Grand Tourer style coupes with their V8s under the nose. But now for Pat Gallo, he's going to have to find 7 seconds if he wants to make any further places in this race to go catch Robert McGrath there next up the road. As we focus on Paul Longworth once again in that number 4 Aston Martin as he tries to keep in touch there with Jacques Swanepoel and Jack Anderson. They're all about even space though this time, David, on the Ulm Straight. It's in behind, which might be a little more interesting in the next couple of corners between Stu Brown and Sean Lacey, although Lacey's going to start vanishing on us here.
Stay with us, Lacey. And of course, he was up in that 6th, 7th place fight before he went off the track. I'm pretty sure it's Cunningham Corner. Now he's cutting a very narrow line to the inside of turn number 1, maybe a little too narrow if the driver around the outside flows momentum. Stuart Brown will hold on, racing up towards where his teammate is. Another very ambitious show of the nose, and at this point, it all starts to look a little bit like a bluff if you're the driver in front.
Yeah, if the guy behind does it enough times, you can sort of just trust yourself to not worry about it and do your thing to maintain your speed, especially in these kind of cars that are very grip limited and don't have all that much aerodynamic grip as well to assist, thanks to, of course, basic splitters, basic rear wings, barely anything in terms of a diffuser as well. As these guys work their way up towards, indeed, Cunningham Corner, as you correctly identified there. He's going to have a look again, perhaps. Not close enough to make the move. It just forces Brown, though. Stuart Brown to go a little deep into the corner and let that Cayman get about a half car length closer, I'd say, David.
Yep, but you're not going to pass down the inside of Tower in cars like these, so compromising the driver through that previous corner didn't really work out anything, hoping that there might be a bit of slipstream down the back straight if you can go well through this complex of corners here. Some quick changes of direction. Drivers always want to open up the entry. Has the Aston gone a little wide there? I think it has, but it's got good horsepower compared to the Porsche that we know has taken just a little bit of a haircut since round one, and that's the source of frustration for Lacey. The inside of Sunset Bend this time, and he is all the way up there in a little deep, hoping to turn it around and drive it off the exit of the corner. Just a little slide, but I think he's finally made that one work after trying probably every corner on this lap.
Oh, well, if you keep at it, your patience and dedication will be rewarded, and it has been in the case of Sean Lacey. We check back in with our race leader once again here, David Bo Albert, in that number 06, and now that he's gone privateer, deciding to embrace his love for Monster Energy and slap that on the car, but also slight homage as well to Ken Block and his partnership with Monster there as well. But we're being told Bo also having been having some fun with this car. It's not all that compliant, we're being told, and to watch out for it here at Sunset Bend in particular. You can see he's getting it definitely a little bit sideways, or at least encouraging the slip angle through a Le Mans on that particular time.
He's reciting War and Peace there as well, but yeah, it's the Mercedes in the long and fast corners that the rear sort of gets loaded up, and the longer it's loaded up, the less it quite wants to do what it's told, and you can see the bumps do not help that whatsoever. That looked about as good as you could do. Fastest lap of the race is a 2:11.3, I think, and he's just about matched that, so he's on some pace right now. Turn one, a little similar, that the outside rear tire gets a lot of weight transferring onto it. These GT4 cars, they do roll and pitch and bounce a little more than GT3, so you expect the weight transfer in those corners to be a bit more severe.
Absolutely. You can see it nicely visually defined here in these cars as Hayden Jackson comes off the lane now. If I'm not mistaken, that is indeed for his second time in the race. Same can be said for Simon Dwyer. Very short fill there, if that was fuel. It was a little longer than what was needed for a fast repair, so I presume that was the case. So unfortunately, it looks like a couple of drivers a little short of what they needed to make it home. Opting to come in early to get that sorted and have a nice longer run to the end. Meanwhile, back to the fight here for P number 6. Hilton Booth has not let Pat Gallo go. In the meantime, though, Seth Brown continuing to attempt a recovery drive here. David is now ranging up on these two, as they are now all within about 1.5 seconds.
Brown has just done his personal best lap of the race there. So the two drivers in front have just done laps in the 2:13s, and Brown's done a 2:11.6. So he's got a lot of speed to burn compared to the both of them, and it shows now how close he is to Hilton Booth in this part of the lap where it's more challenging to pass at Cunningham at Tower. But with this amount of extra speed, could happen sooner than you think. He is going to shove down the inside at Tower Bend, hope to use that little bit of camber in the road. Everyone goes wide and picks up a little bit of free Florida dirt on the exit there, but he manages to avoid too much of it, and that's how much speed he's got.
Yeah, looking quite strong in that Mercedes, and showing that can convert the 1-lap pace into race pace. Just that, well, unfortunately, it all went quite literally sideways on him about as soon as it possibly could, and therefore not ideal to say the least. So see what Gallo he can do. And saying that, I said Pat Gallo would have his work cut out for him to catch Robert McGrath, because when he got through, it was about 7 seconds the margin to McGrath ahead. It's down low to a 5-second odd margin. So whether it's Pat Gallo or Seth Brown, David, I reckon that that 5th place for the 140 McGrath is certainly not signed, sealed, and delivered just yet, given there's still just under 12 minutes on the clock left in this race.
Yeah, and we expect a possibility that some might need to pit again. This is, yeah, Jacques Swanepoel getting ahead Jack Anderson in a Mercedes versus Mercedes fight. Anderson is one of the drivers we thought took 4 new tyres at the stop, and it is a toasty track out there at 45 Celsius or so. It has been all race. You can't grow lots of oranges without a Florida sun.
That's one way to put it. Indeed. There you go. Seth Brown now starting to work over the bumper of Pat Gallo, and between them they've absolutely ditched Hilton Booth in this process. So 007 Aston starting to fade at this moment in time relative to the Cayman and the Mercedes. He's going to go up the inside of tower again.
Oh, he's looking. I don't think he's quite close enough, and the cornering potential of the Porsche a little more than its straight line potential makes it harder to outbrake it there, but he's very much confused, Pat Gallo, and he is going to motor on around the outside here if he can. Did they almost touch, because Gallo is around. Oh, and almost. Well, that was a slide and a spin for sure. Anderson and Swanepoel go through. What's the rear of that Porsche looking? Because there were some little updates to how these cars, particularly the Porsche, I think, handle in their damage. Zomo and Mayer for the podium. Zomo just taken that one away. He's found a real turn of pace in the last lap. Was his best of the race as well, with 10 minutes to go.
Well, if you're going to get the car hooked up and India rhythm, not a bad time to do it. As just had a look back at Pat Gallo and Seth Brown there. It looks like there was a tiny bit of contact just as Gallo came down off the curb there through those double left-hand kinks on the run to Gendebien. As we see it again, just that little bit too deep into Tower Corner thanks to Brown's nosing into the corner. And we'll just see here, hops up on the curb, runs out wide towards Brown, and the car just basically bounced off there. And watch there for Hilton Booth. He is very lucky to get away with that. Gallo not all too impressed on the in-game radios, but from what I can see from that angle and from having had a quick look at it, I'm not sure what Seth Brown's to do there. He's definitely left a good 2.5 car widths to the inside for Gallo to work with there on the inside through those that double left
Brown
kinks.
was there the whole time, and he was nose in front at that point. And if Gallo wants them to still go too wide, he's got a pedal that works both ways, as they say. He is with Anderson and Lacey. Lacey looking down the inside of Anderson, and it's a very pink and purple affair here again. The Mercedes and the Porsche door to door, and I think if they touch, the Porsche tends to come off worse just by nature of sizes in play. Oh, super close, squeezing down there at Tower, and along comes Stuart Brown in the Aston Martin. He's at speed, got his foot down. Also, again, going to look around the outside of this corner here and then find that maybe not.
Yeah, Lacey, defensive, you might even suggest there, runs that car out nice and wide to not open the inside of what eventually would be turn 14, Gendebien there for the run into that complex to Le Mans. But yeah, Anderson trying to leave some space, but at the same time, sort of place his car where he wants it to be. And It was almost the wrong place, but Lacey able to hang on to it as well after a slight bit of contact there to just ruffle their feathers and bring, as you said, Stuart Brown into the mix.
Yeah, great racing all through the field. Leader out to 10 seconds now over Sam Muir. And then the podium fight between Mizomo and Mayer absolutely not settled, especially as they're in identical machinery. And Slipstream can help you stay in touch around this circuit at a pretty high average speed and a couple of long straights, pit straight, back straight down towards turn 7 as well. And then I feel like between about position 6 and position 15, it has been a big bowl of spaghetti changing around and sauce here and there. A couple of spicy meatballs.
Yeah, it's yeah, one way to put it. I think it's probably not an incorrect summation of things. There's yeah, bit of controversy, bit of drama. As Sean Lacey once again continuing to disappear on us, unfortunately giving our cameras and timing software all kinds of hernias. Your connection will restore itself just in time to show up there for Cunningham and Collier corners. As looking there at the top of the screen, Richard Mayer trying to close that gap, but he's only closing in by inches, really, more than feet or meters, depending on your preference of measurement there. So going to have to really, I think, rely on an error from Mizomo in that 9.54 to make the move, I would suggest. Though good run through Sunset Bend closes down to 2/10, and he'll look, but I don't think he's there for turn 1.
No, not quite. 3 laps to go for all of them as they cross the line there. So only a couple laps to go for Mizomo and Mayer in their battle, and Gallo, Anderson, Lacey, they're not done yet at all. Bottom of your screen, they'll come around Sunset Bend, and then it'll be 3 laps to go for them in their fight. How about Patrick Panton, Adam Hill Motion, and Brady Buchanan for 16th, 17th, 18th? 2 of those drivers have been through pit lane twice. But I love to see this, that, you know, you're maybe a little off what your pace could have been, you're a little off the leader's pace, but that doesn't mean you're in this sort of being left in the dust no man's land. Everyone is racing to the end of this one and can't afford to give up, or they'll lose some spots. Anderson offline there, looking at Pat Gallo, going to look at him again in turn number 3. Doesn't work. It's a bit of a late apex for that corner as well, and now Lacey thinks, oh, maybe my nose can fit in there at turn 5.
All that does, though, is compromise the run round the big bend as they head on up to the hairpin, which will mean that Anderson gets in a free shot at the rear bumper of Gallo, and having seen that happen at turn 3, Gallo will defend the inside nice and early. So no way through for that 319 Infinity Motorsport Mercedes. So they still try to sort that one out between the 3 of them. I'd say 4, Stuart Brown just a little bit out of the equation, but most certainly in position to pick up the pieces. There we go. Gallo's been defensive for a couple of corners. Anderson's going to try and force the issue at Cunningham. Oh, Lacey's there too, but where is he? Because he keeps disappearing on us. This could get nasty if he vanishes again and reappears up the inside of someone.
Yeah, really putting the pressure on now, and maybe we're starting to see a difference in tyre performance because Anderson is looking a little punchier. Gallo could have some damage on the rear of that car from earlier on as well that wouldn't be helping him out. Wouldn't be helping out his straight line performance either. It would make it difficult to defend. He runs in a little deep there, but the only way you'll get punished for that is if the other driver looks down the inside at Le Mans. He can make a move there. He doesn't. It costs him momentum, and suddenly Lacey and Brown are in the picture. A drag race down the Ullman Straight like we've seen so many times before. And yeah, you can choose your model, you can choose your paint, and they've got to have some bravery as they head down into towards Sunset Bend. Nose gets chopped on Anderson there as Lacey looks to go around the outside of all of them. Did he hit the inside wall there, Anderson?
That looks like he's certainly got the wall, but seems to have gotten away with it. Yeah, on my end, not seeing any significant visual, or no visual issues with the front right corner of that Mercedes AMG GT4, but he's in way too hot for turn 1. That's going to be in the weeds at the very worst, and he's going to have to recover that one up. Stuart Brown will go on through, but has to be mindful of all of that now, and it means it's going to be a two groups of two. Words, that they exist. And we're going to go
Not
to
normally
a quick
short of
replay.
finding them. Here we go. He's looking down the inside, hoping from that little indent to then get up the inside of a couple drivers. No, he doesn't hit it from that dude, but what he does is turn in a little too early and have to steer out of it, compromise all of his speed, and he's run off the corner. Leader's not far from Sunset Bend to come around and start the final lap of Pass 2, and it's an exciting little sports car GT circuit, this.
Well, little is probably not the right adjective I'd use to describe
It's
Sebring.
smaller than Bathurst, so...
That there by the standard which all tracks are measured. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah,
We
George Schleifer, bigger than Bathurst. Road America, bigger than Bathurst. So those are big tracks. This, yeah, it's getting there, but it's no Bathurst.
All right then. Well, you call the shots for this one. I guess I'm just the fill-in for this week, attempting to also deliver the new and improved concise edition, as Mizomo still has the nose on there. As Director Kennedy is amused at the fact that I dare mention the word trying and concise in the same sentence, because, well, pigs have wings and they fly.
So what about this four-way fight? Gallo still out front of it in 9th place, but might be missing some grip, some performance, having gone very square but backwards into the wall earlier on. Lacey looking quite confident and racy, and so was Anderson, until he almost had a brush with Destiny at Sunset Bend last lap around. The white flag is out for them, so it's playing for keeps now.
All right, Lacey continuing to hunt around in the rear mirrors of Gallo to turn one, and there we go. Gallo a little shallow on the way in, but enough ahead to protect it into turns 2 and 3. Lacey, I think, will prioritise looking for the run out of turn 5. Try and get the best line you can through 3 and up over the curb at 4. So many different apex options there as they both come off 5 pretty evenly, I would suggest. The driver who's lost out was Jack Anderson, unfortunately, as he drops off the rear of the group. And so now it is very much down to these two Porsche Caymans. Okay, Gallo not defensive under brakes there, David, but Lacey not close enough to really force the issue this time.
Final lap, so
time
many
really
great
happened.
battles everywhere, like for the podium between Mizomo and Mayer, for 5th
That's
between
close.
McGrath, where Brown is closing in, and of course that one right there. Man, he's been under no pressure though since the round of pit stops. Bo Albert is going to win it at Sebring. Get out of here. Get out of here. He's pleased with himself, and if the shirt wasn't blinding us, so does the camera flash now. Hope you're pleased with yourself, pal. Muir's going to hold on a second. Mizomo still under a little bit of pressure to the line, but Mayer's not going to have enough horsepower in the identical Porsches to steal a podium away from him. Brown and McGrath through Sunset Bend in the background. McGrath's been charging.
But Brown has made the
Brown's got
move.
him. Yeah, Brown's managed to pull ahead of him on this final lap and recover up into 5th place after being off the circuit on the outside of turn number 1 on lap number 1. Pace in 40 minutes can get you some positions back, even if Daniel Yeaman tries to write you off. And Hilton Booth, you can see him out of the final corner there, ahead of Jacques Swanepoel. Gallo, Lacey, Brown, still anyone's game there, 9th, 10th and 11th.
Yeah, you say anyone's game, but I think unfortunately that check has been signed, sealed and delivered. And for advantage, poor Pat Gallo there will hang on ahead of Lacey and Brown. Anderson as well in the background with the hot pink paint and flashing of the headlights to try and get some attention to that one. And it leaves us with Adam Hill Motion and Patrick Panton looking to scrap this one to the line here. McLaren versus Aston Martin, but looks like Panton not quite the best run off of Le Mans as they come down the Ullman Straight for the final time here.
Yeah, maybe two of the slightly less favoured cars in the Aston Martin and the McLaren. Maybe there's a circuit later on in the calendar that could favour them, and of course they're not looking like they're going to get too much horsepower taken away from them. at this phase. He got enough fuel there for Hill Motion. He does to hold off Patrick Panton, some of the last cars on the lead lap there, with Brady Buchanan just behind. Oh, pretty good racing. Could have been a bit closer for the lead, but overall, lots happening. There we go. That's the finishing order. Bo Albert from Samuel, Simon Mizomo. Looking good for his championship. Another podium results. And Richard Mayer, Seth Brown, Robert McGrath, Hilton Booth, Chuck Swanepoel, Pat Gallo, and Sean Lacey. Top 10. And we had a look at everyone else behind as they were finishing too. Stu Brown, Jack Anderson, Paul Longworth, Mark Cochran, Matt Hardigan, Adam Hillmotion, Patrick Panton, Brady Buchanan. One lap down, Greg Panton and Aaron Maguire and Kyle Gretsch. 4 for Hayden Jackson. 6 for Simon Dwyer and Jason Benson, Timothy Fabian, parking it up at the end of lap 3. Well, we've got some great sponsors on board for this year and this season of AusPass. Simrix.com, one of them, but of course, new edition, Super Cheap Auto. And we have got a $20 voucher to give out to one of the drivers in today's Pass 2 race. For who made it super, and we've decided Seth Brown for back of the field, very, very last position, lap 1, turn 1, came through on the final lap to gain a top 5. $20 Super Cheap Auto gift voucher going his way for making it super.
Yeah, that is definitely definitely a worthy award, this one. And
We've got the big boys in GT3 of Pro-Am coming up very shortly. We'll take a little break here on SimSpeed TV, and when we come back, more GT racing from Sebring.
Hey! So you do like it?
I love it, yeah.
Yeah.
Now when you go pre-owned, you can enjoy the same feeling you get with a new Toyota. Tested and backed by Toyota.
Upgrade your car, mate.
This? Yeah, no big deal.
Toyota certified. Pre-owned in a class of its own. Oh, what a feeling. Toyota.
World of Outlaws Dirt Racing is available now. Download your copy today.
Back at Sebring with more racing still to come. Great to be back in a new season. Simrigs.com Oz Pro-Am Sim Series, kicking it off last week at Silverstone and now at Sebring. A couple of new sponsors on board as well to join Simrigs.com and form Super Cheap Auto, Exodus Racing and Index Designs carrying over to. We move from the GT4 machines up into GT3 with Pro and Am, and this is what the standings look like at the moment. Ross Rizzo leading it from Jeff Connell, two long-time AusPass rivals, just 4 points to separate them in an Audi against the Porsche. Then we've got Sebastian Flock, Luke Turner, Richard Mitchum, John Merritt, Brandon Levin, Chu Kang, Scott Hassler, and Lachlan Capel is our top 10 in the Pro division. In Am, things are looking good for Brandon Groch there with 438 points ahead of Nick Wood, David Baz, Sam Lehman, Stephen Tonkin, Ben Jeffrey, Tyson Hanmer, Thomas Leprake, Jamie Blackman, and Ben Pollock. So we'll see how things look after this race. Enduro round at Sebring. The Enduro round always puts a lot more pressure on consistency, I feel, because it's all of the points in one big packet, one big race, just like 300 at Bathurst for the 1000. So lots of GT3 models available. Some slight tweaks to that balance of performance. The horsepower from last round. Biggest winner there would be the Ferrari 488. Audi R8 LMS picking up a tiny bit as well, and Mercedes AMG going backwards one step. Porsche 911 GT3R back half a step.
Yeah, and unlike in past two, with 6 cars on the roster here in the Pro-Am category, we do have cars that don't see a BOP change for our middle two based on results from last week. So a little bit more diversity and spread in the way the cars will be updated and change over the course of the season. Looks like everyone's more or less done their times in the session, and we're just waiting for it to tick on over here. And it looks like that it's going to be a couple of Lamborghinis up towards the front tonight, David, who are going to get this race underway. Lachlan Capel and Sebastian Flock going to start from positions 1 and 2 here tonight. And then in behind, we've got Brock Kelly, the first of our Porsche 911 GT3Rs there for Visceral Esports, who's sharing that row with Trans-Tasman Racing's Ross Rizzo and the first of our Audi R8 LMSs. Seb Vondel, Lamborghini, going to start at P5, and then one of those Mercedes AMG GT3s, Luke Turner in the Brabham Racing number 9, going to start out of P number 6. A good diversity, I'd say, for the most part there. On to the rest of the grid. 7th place is going to be in the hands of Jeff Connell there in the number 4, sharing that row with Matt Bailey in the 117 for Visceral Esports. John Merritt, Scott Hazel to round out the top 10. First of our BMWs there in the hands of Scott, with Daniel Fleming and Brayden Sagassa to round out your top 12.
Yeah, indeed. Big field of GT3s once again, over 40 of them for this 1 hour race. And always interesting to see which of the AM drivers qualify high up in the overall standings. Of course, reminds me of Scott McLaughlin finishing on the outright podium in an LMP2 here. Why not? Something like that. Funzlo, Colin Schwerke, Hamish Cleland, Brady Standley, Jordan Peter, and Harry Lawrence takes us through to 18th, and then Nick Wood, Christopher Henn, Adam Jepson, Brandon Levin, Chu Kang, and Nicholas Timoris. Chu Kang will be very glad of a little bit of extra horsepower, starting from where he is right smack dab in the middle of the field. Same for Tyson Hanmer. Brandon Groch, Richard Brookfield, Jai Potts, Ben Holiday, and Ben Jeffrey is the top 30. But wait, there's more. With Thomas Leprake, Zale Carpenter, Jeffrey Wang, Ben Pollock, Caleb Bellac, David Baz. My goodness, a lot deeper in the field than I would have expected from someone who finished on the AM podium at Silverstone. But anything could happen in 1 hour of racing, and pit stops ahead of us. Steve Tonkin, Derek Audie, Ian Jordan, Jamie Blackman, Jordan Ferguson, and Phil Aughty all have qualifying times. And Hamish Munro doesn't. So if he starts, he'll start out of 43rd. But I think I'm seeing almost everyone on the grid except 35th qualifier Caleb Bellac. So So track conditions decidedly cooler for the GT3s than they were earlier.
Yeah, not too surprised to see that. Generally speaking, Pro-Am servers often run towards later in sim time. You can see it ticking past 6:37 p.m. virtual here at Sebring to continue that trend along, as it were. And, well, it'll only get that little bit closer towards the sunset as this race goes on as a result. In fact, while I'm thinking about it, virtual sunset will be about 8:05, so we won't get there tonight in this Pro-Am endurance race, but still prime opportunity for some nice looking pictures here at Sebring from the virtual world tonight.
Getting ready for that race start for the 1 hour race, and on iRacing, the minute your car plonks down on that dummy grid and your engine is on, you're burning fuel. So I wonder if there's any drivers being very cautious on this full near 6 kilometer outlap to just make sure they get their tires in but don't burn too much fuel. So
yeah,
hopefully Jay's got a graphic for us of the sponsors. Here we go, because I named some but not all of them, and we've got to name all of them, especially some of the long-standing ones. Horrible oversight to miss them out. So of course it is simrigs.com, Exodus Racing, Super Cheap Auto, Echuca Toyota, and Index Designs on board for this season of simrigs.com Oz Pro-Am Sim Series. What are we at? Are we at season 7 or 8? It's season 9. It's been long-standing and going strength to strength. Great grids on show once again.
Yep, ever since we've been fortunate here at SimSpeed to pick it up with broadcast coverage starting in season 6 and continuing to bring it all together here. And also the addition to Super Cheap Auto and the Make It Super Awards, the next nice little step on that path here for AusPass on your Thursday night. And I'm just watching the field here. They're working their way up towards Gendarmerie, start of the back straight after Le Mans as well. Looks there for the most case, drivers keeping it pretty straight and too wide here, David. Nothing too aggressive when it comes to tyre warming at this point here in the formation lap.
And it is going to be very interesting what the strategies look like in this 1 hour race. Changes to the GT3 class since last season of AusPass mean that the tyres are a little more single stint than they used to be. Drivers who want to go this whole 1 hour race on one set of tyres very well might run out of grip by the end of it. Look at that field. They're all ready to go. All of the Lamborghinis have got their full endurance headlights on. They got their, you know, tradie in a Hilux light bar spec going on. When is our pole sitter Lachlan Capel gonna let the pace car go? It's about now. He backs it off from 90 k's an hour down to more like 70. All Lamborghinis on the front row. Very impressive with the visceral portion behind them, and the championship leader in pro, Ross Rizzo, will be on the outside of the second row. See? And they are ready. Barney's got it in the air. He's got the green flag. He's going to drop it and get us underway. Great launch from Ross. Great launch from Rizzo. Gets left in the dust. Lachlan Capel will lead them on cold tyres into bumpy turn number 1. 3 wide there, and a little touch in the field. The track really narrows from the old runway onto the purpose-built racetrack for turns 2 and 3. Field check up.
Oh no.
And they're going to have to check up big because Rizzo and Flock are around at turn 4.
Yeah, and that started from a checkup from Brock Kelly in the number 11 Visceral Esports Porsche. And as a result, it has caused that massive chain reaction. While saying that, the big victims being Rizzo and Flock only. Everyone else for the most part seems to have dodged that one as they work their way up to the hairpin for the first time. So it's Capel from Kelly from Varndell the third. Then Daniel Fleming up 7 spots into 4th place. Then Merritt to round out top 5 as they streak on by. Also 7 spots gained for Adam Funzo to P6 here, David. It is a lot of side-by-side for people as they come through the hairpin here on lap number 1.
Yeah, that concertina effect at turn 7. Not catching too many people out, thankfully. Hopefully everyone's got their 1 hour endurance race hat on and their brains switched into this gear. But all of that kerfuffle and schmozzle has let first and second get away pretty cleanly from what is closely fought racing in the rest of the field. Kelly and Capel out front in the Lamborghini and the Porsche. Porsche took a little bit of a haircut. Lamborghini relatively unchanged, if I recall. And that is a great Audi Sport Tribute livery for Daniel Fleming in fourth, and he has made big gains. That's a car that's going to look good when we go to the Nordschleife, 3 wide at Le Mans. And that's going to check up the field down the very wide back straight. Plenty of room for other drivers in the slipstream to maybe try to pull through. I swear I see some bump drafting as they're practically 3 lanes wide, heading down towards Sunset for the first time. And you can, with all the downforce, all of the grit, avoid some of the bumps out wide, but that is way too wide for that BMW. Kicking up the dust, and there's smoke in the air as around is BMW of Braden Sagasar.
That's unfortunate, and the 3 wide is carrying on in the mid-pack towards turn 1. They sort themselves out though, and there it is in and around the 20s. This lot was, Richard Brookfield in the dirt, and then, oh my word, one of
Williams
our...
a GTP spec there.
Oh my word, there, who was that? The 47 grid rival Porsche is Harry Lawrence there. Thankfully, all that was just a checkup. That hasn't hurt him too much, but replay is incoming here, David, from lap 1.
I don't know what was going on with half of that, but I loved it. A big field of GT3s trying to give respectful racing room, and there, Rizzo gets underneath the rear wing of Brock Kelly, has to slow up, gets hit by Flock behind, and luckily both of them spin most of the way off the track, but they did narrow it as the whole field was 2 wide, 3 wide, trying to make its way through. I only see one car that's pitted off that first lap with damage, and it is the championship leader, Ross Rizzo, in 43rd place overall. A couple of cars that lost big were Nick Wood as well, who was doing well in the AM Championship. Brady Sagasar, we just saw spin out, and Flock, of course, deep in the field as well after that opening lap. A lot going on in 6 kilometers of Sebring. Here's the slow car of Thomas the Brake, offline for the most part at the moment. I think he had a problem at Tower Bend because he was digging up the dirt there. Is it because he got hit, or is it because he went too wide? Find out at some later point. Almost lap 2 complete here, and Lachlan Capel leads from Brock Kelly. Vandell, I think, is not letting them get away in that third position. He's looking pretty strong, and of course we've seen Fleming into 4th from 11th on the grid in a couple of chaotic laps of racing action. When you settle into the racing rhythm, I think that extra horsepower for the Ferraris could come in handy.
It should, yeah. I mean, the Lamborghinis are 2 with unchanged power coming into this week at 98%. Will hopefully have a benefit. It seems to be helping out the front for Lockie Capel. But we'll talk about that later. He's on board with Brady Stanley there. Out of turn 5. Should I get past Hamish Clellan there in one of our Froglet Juice Racing BMWs tonight as they work their way up to the hairpin. I'm also just seeing on my end, there's a lot more argy-bargy in the 20s still, coming through turns 3, 4, and 5 just now. These guys, they all go single file. I think they actually, they resolved their... Actually, no, it's further on back, I think, is where I saw some of the interesting stuff as they come up to the hairpin. There it is, 2 by 2 with... that is Ben Pollock, Ben Jeffrey, Ian Jordan, Braden Sagasar, Jamie Blackman, and Sebastian Flock all wanting to get involved here, David. As well, in the case of, say, Seb, he's trying to recover. These guys all scrapping for their roughly where they started spots.
Yeah, Sagasar and Flock are the 2 drivers you expect to see cut their way through this, but that is so much easier said than done when you get blocked into position there. Contact with the Ferrari of Blackman, I think it was, and the track's half blocked in front of Jeffrey Wang as well. So much going on all around the field here, and it doesn't calm down for Blackman. This was ahead of Wang, so yeah, I'm not sure. Wang dives down the inside, makes a tiny bit of side-by-side contact.
Dale Carpenter with the moves in the SC BMW there, and gets into the door of Jeffrey Wang and stalls that car's momentum off of Le Mans corner, and as a result, a whole flock of drivers make their way past up to Ian Jordan, although trying to go around the outside, Will Wang, but he gets actually completely blocked off by Ben Pollock, sorry, through that final corner, so that does not work out for him. As in the background as well as that, Hamish Munro. I think Harry Lawrence has lost a whole bunch of spots on the exit turn, and he's got damage in the 47 Porsche as well. So just everywhere I'm looking here, David, someone is having a moment out on track.
Yeah, absolutely. If it's not the bumps, it's the close quarter competition that'll get you. I think that's been the result of most of the spun cars, is just a little bit too much close quarter racing. This, though, a little bit higher up the field. Oh, he's got a slide on so early, and he just never quite saves it until gives those fans a good view. So it ought to be a 2 pit stop race all through the field as well. So we saw in the 40-minute race last week how early some drivers wanted to stop to try to get out of this melee. But then they've got to think about when they make their fuel stops based on when they want to get a tyre change in, which is, I think, what the winning strategy ought to be with the higher drop-off and the more wear and degradation. This is looking backwards from the leader. Lachlan Capel to Brock Kelly. Vondel not too far away. Daniel Fleming and then John Merritt. And, well, he just never stops. From 6th place, Adam Fonslow on back.
Yeah, I mean, there's sort of a pause at the back of Luke Turner's not in 11th place before we get to the next pack of cars, you could say. But, well, yeah, you got to sort of play the numbers. It all sort of stretches out into eternity. Now, make an interesting point about tyres, I think, with this race. Given it is a 1-hour event and the temperatures are fairly favourable, I'd actually argue the opposite. As hang on, Doug Harper's had a moment down at Sunset. He was alongside. Doug Harper's had a big issues with his car on the exit of Sunset, and
looped it around at the exit of Sunset, and 2 cars have unfortunately drilled him in that position. So it's been horror. A couple of seconds there for Dale Carpenter. Look at that, something's broken. A lot of things are broken on that now.
Yeah, I think he was alongside Braden Sagassa. No, we're going to have a look at here. Sagassa behind Thomas LePrake in that Mercedes. So let's see here. LePrake looking inside. Oh dear. No, in a bit deep from LePrake. Gets into the door. It sends both cars into a tizzy, and that little tap there has completely done in the left rear, and it was going to go no more. Unfortunately, 2 cars caught in a bit of, make it 3 cars caught in a bit of a Sebring Pinball Sunset Edition.
Yep. So a little bit more gap up front for Lachlan Capel. Still not too many pit stops this early stage of the race. Here's Jeff Connell. Was second in the championship, wasn't he? We've got Ross Rizzo as a retirement, so you'd want to just finish inside of the top 5 for Connell, methinks. He's 9th at the moment in a Porsche that is typically good to tyres over the long stints, but we know doesn't have huge horsepower because, we're IMSA here. What are we giving him? 20 mil restrictors?
Yeah,
right,
who knows?
That, the leader's pit. Okay, Capel, Kelly, Vondel, your top 3 into pit lane, and almost the whole rest of the field following. The real question is who isn't, and the answer is Jeff Connell. Can you see the surprised look on my face? Scott Hassler and Luke Turner also think they've got 1 more lap of fuel in their cars. Most drivers are stopping. This is a lap that Connell really needed to capitalize, going long, looking for the overcut, and immediately at turn 1, digging up the dirt on the exit.
I think thankfully for Connell's case,
I think I never went into that dirt there. I think I went into the dirt here. I went into the dirt at Tower. I had a moment at Sunset, but never at turn 1.
Well, yeah, I think in Connell's case, it doesn't hurt him too much, maybe a half a tenth. He definitely kept the foot in it for the most part. And yeah, these are the select few drivers who have opted to be aggressively saving in that opening stint, I'd say. And the answer is it's a total of 7 drivers who have committed to going the extra lap. I mean, no shockers that they're in. I mean, the fact that we just got past 11 odd minutes of racing is roughly what these cars are fueled for here in AusPass in the Pro-Am. and they've also only got a 30% tank or 30% tank restriction to their name, so they can only add about an extra 10 odd liters on top of what they can put in the car. So that will be one to watch over the course of the race. And as I've just been reminded by Director Joe Kennedy in my ear, David, crucial to see here, Brock Kelly doing a good job in the pit lane total.
Yeah, we think of that as one of the strengths of the Porsche. If it's not the outright speed, it's the tyre life and it's the fuel economy. So just a slightly fractionally shorter stop out of Brock Kelly gets him back into the slipstream of Lachlan Capel and puts those two a little bit further away from Van Dell. Is there two Lamborghinis with at Tower Corner for someone? Oh, it is who I thought it was. Funslow and Bailey as Colin Schwecke in the black Ferrari looks to use all of those prancing horses to inject himself into the middle of this battle. All three of them have pitted and fueled, so they're in a good spot outright as Hassel, O'Connell, Turner, Cleland all look to pit, and I feel like we're going to see everyone who hasn't stopped already, and we will, as Grotch and Tonkin come in as well. Yeah,
no big shockers there. Pretty extreme as we're actually noting there.
And his teammate too.
Scott Hasler going, and it's also a short jack stop there. So 2 tyre change for Frog Leap Juice cars. And also we're told fast repair has been used. So
a pit stop for everyone. Lachlan Capel goes back through into that lead of the race now and has shaken Brock Kelly a little bit on the outlap. Who's a gainer out of that? I think 3rd, 4th and 5th are still the same as they were before the pit stops, but John Merritt might have gotten a little closer to Daniel Fleming.
Yeah, seems about right as we focus in on Merritt versus Daniel Fleming, right, and all in both the... Oh, geez, that all in the stationary time? That is almost all in the stationary time. Actually, Fleming gets a couple of tenths back with the lane time to try and soften the blow. But Matt Merck will be just getting the whisper of slipstream, and will be a little more happier about it in the process. Though in saying that, David, updates this season making slipstream not as effective as it once was here on iRacing.
It's still going to be something, though.
It will. You just have to be about
too much dirtier.
Yeah, you have to be about half the distance that you were to actually get some kind of slipstream straight line benefit. Dirty air still feels like it is relevant. Yeah, just all things generally speaking feels like it's just been all toned down, is though they want to try and encourage cars to get closer and race closer through just on track ability, not so much purely on the straight line, but still leads to clumps and packs like you can see in the background of shot. I think it's technically 2 packs, but we can call it 1 for the sake of the show.
Yeah, here's Connell on Hassler now. Connell, I think, did get an overcut on 1 or 2 of the cars that pitted before. Might be Funslow and Bailey, potentially. I feel like he was 9th before these pit stops. He's 7th now, breathing down the neck of 6th place.
That does sound right.
They're going to hope to get away from that group of cars behind because they come thick and fast back there, don't they? Turner, Funslow, Bailey, Schwecke, Brady, Standley. Who's leading AM at the moment? Looks like it is Sebastian Van Dell, who's in 3rd outright, and then 2nd in that category would be Nicholas Timoris here in the Porsche, sitting in a pretty good position with a good view of what's going to be the points leader at the end of this round by the look of things.
Yep. Van Dell is definitely sitting pretty as
around at turn 7 or is a little earlier in the lap.
Just before turns 4 and 5 there, and unfortunately the other car involved, one of the drivers looking to recover still after the start of the race, Braden Sagassa. Now Baz has the awkward and awful job of trying to back this car up and do the 3-point turn on a racetrack, or in proximity to the racetrack, I guess technically, if you want to get particular with me, and do it without interfering with those still on said racetrack there, as we'll go to the replay to check it out here, David.
I feel like I think I know what's going to happen. Yeah, based on how Sagasar was was behaving after that. It's so tough. Sometimes you want to maybe look at the inside of turn number 5 there if you get a good line through 3 and a good little speed through the kink of 4. But the way the track sort of, you know, is a bit of an S's there, makes it difficult to get down the inside and have the other driver see you, know you're there, and be able to react in any sensible way. I'm definitely still tracking for this to be a 2-stop race with one very early stop in the field. Here's Timoris actually making the first stop, went a lap longer than the people who went a lap longer than the rest of the field. So that's a interesting strategy that could pay dividends later on. Big wiggle amongst the battle for the Lamborghinis here with Funslow behind Bailey.
Yeah, I'm just noting, where did Nicolas Timoris get that extra economy from in the Porsche? Because that's very impressive. He's actually, to go 8 laps relative to everyone else.
Ross Rizzo's power. So this is a look at Funslow. We're on board with the Lamborghini. Yeah, wheel to wheel in combat here, and just maybe gets a lick of the grass on the outside there.
He did. Can confirm was actually watching that live when it happened, but just a tiny little bit of the right rear under brakes. Thankfully, the car didn't violently snap away from him there, so able to gather it up, but lose the spot to Bailey in the process. And Colin Schwecker is now like a way through as well. That Dark Horse Stallion Dark Horse, I guess we'll just go with that. Trying to keep making his way forward. So up 3 spots is the 91. Likewise, 3 also gained for Fonzo. Still, well, I would say your biggest mover into the top 10, if we go conditional on that, is still Daniel Fleming. The biggest mover in the race outright, you actually have to go back to 22nd to find Stephen Tonkin up 15 places in his number 82 Mercedes there, which puts him maybe top 5 in AM class, if I can count correctly. I think actually
a little further back than that.
P5 in AM to be precise. Yay me.
Yay man. Almost a third of the way through the race, 1.6 second lead for Capel. And then a bit of fresh air to Sebastian Vandal, who'll be, I think, very happy to be running 3rd outright as the AM leader, which is denoted on the graphics by the blue number, the sort of greeny, yellow, tealy. That's not teal. That's definitely not teal. Is the pro drivers. You can see there's a whole glut of them between 4th down to 15th before you then get into another big slew of the AM runners. So for Vandal, that's great to have a lot of track position between himself and anyone who could take points away from him in this one. Looking at Merritt 5th behind Fleming in 4th, and then Connell still behind Hassler. Looking at some speed traps here to see if that horsepower for the Ferrari is doing any good. And I've got sort of 255 for Schwecky, 253 for Funslow. So I think at the end of the straight, it certainly helps. Kelly dropping back on this lap by a couple tenths. Might have made a little error somewhere.
Yeah, he's dropped, Kelly on this lap's dropped a 10th in the 2nd sector, and then another 10th again, and then another 2 tenths. He's lost actually, close to 4 tenths on this lap alone.
How close out to the wall for Capel, but there is almost a little bit of banking to that paved bit up against the wall. I am not brave to get that close.
No, it takes a good amount of dedication and commitment. I know Lockie's done that in getting ready for the Sebring 12-hour this weekend, but it has been in the cousin of the Lamborghini as Jeff Connell to the inside of Scott Hazler at turn 1. Makes that one look nice and easy on entry, middle, and exit. And there'll be potentially Luke Turner, who might try and line up a shot at that BMW. Now that there's clean air on the nose of the Porsche, and it seems to have already pulled a car's length in the process. But yeah, that
for Turner there with the sort of a Brabham tribute. And this Sebring was actually scene of Jack Brabham's first world championship, because he pushed his Cooper that was out of fuel across the finish line for second place in the 1959 US Grand Prix to become the first Australian world champion in the modern Formula One era.
oh, there you have it, David Haynes, connoisseur of all facts, modern and historic, here for us at SimSpeed TV.
I'm not confident of being second place. It might have been for fourth place or something, but he pushed that thing across the line for points and secured his world championship. Here,
well, see that's the important part of the fact, is that he got the championship. We can gloss over the fact it might have been second or fourth to actually get the race result. That's immaterial to the big picture, if you will.
And here he is. Still trying to stay in touch with Connell and Hazzler if there is any slipstream to be had. So what about some of our drivers then who lost a lot of spots in the early going? I see Sebastian Flock still in 27th, Nick Wood 30th, Dale Carpenter and Derek Orty have added to our retirements alongside Ross Rizzo. Braden Sagasar is down in 36th. We saw him parked up for a long time, waiting, trying to redress to David Baz.
Oh, small moment for Matt Bailey. Looks like he's gone around on the exit of turn 5 by his linesman. And Phil Orty is going to pull it over at Gendabine there. And I get the feeling that might just be a race done for the second of our... for Derek. And that, yes, there we go. Sorry, both the Audis will retire from that one there. So just need to have a quick look at Matt Bailey's one. And yeah, unfortunately, gets the Lamborghini all kinds of loose through 3 and 4, overheats the rears, and around it went through turn 5 there, David. So he drops back into, it's at now 15th place for the 117.
24 Celsius, but we didn't see many tyre changes first time around. So 25 minutes of sprint racing on them, and that car was a drift machine from a long time before it finally left the racing circuit. And the change of direction, the bumps, you want to ride some of the curbs in that section typically. Lost it, tried to save, and we saw a lot of incidents in round 1 as well, where the drivers are on the full lock counter steering, almost looking like they're going to be able to save it. And then it just takes a long while for it to finish, like used to happen with the 991 generation Cup car, where it'd start to pendulum on you and you'd know you were in trouble, and it'd just take a while to finally loop around on you.
Yeah, it is one of those things where you're just stuck trying to save the slide, and sometimes you can get it to survive, sometimes it just won't play ball, unfortunately. And
see some second stops happening here for Jepson and Kang, and if that's their economy, then it's going to be a 3-stop race. Potentially, yeah. If that's as far as they could go from the first to the second stop, they are. Yeah. And they are heading for 3 stops. So that's Jepson, Kang, Jai Potts also pitting.
And that checks out with 30% max fuel available to our 6 cars here this evening. They all start with just over 20 litres. I can probably actually get the exact fuel numbers if I went and did a little digging, but yeah, that lines up 7
or what?
7 to... Oh, great. So I'm doing a good job of making myself clear and concise on commentary. Not well. I might go have a look and see if I can find the exact starting fuel numbers again whilst we watch these drivers carry out on track. But
just stands to reason that typically for these GT3 cars, 100% of their fuel tank is an hour. The race is an hour, so 30% of your fuel tank is going to get you 30% of the race. You are going to need 3 stops, because you start with some, and then, you know, your 30, 30, and 30 is only going to get you 90% of the race. It's an issue for one of the Ferraris, Tyson Hanma, just running it a little deep there, but doing the sensible thing. All of the leaders in the game then, Lachlan Capel, Brock Kelly, Varndell together. Are we going to see more tyre changes this time around? Now we're closer to the halfway point of the race. Fleming and Merritt also pit, but no surprises here. The drivers who went a lap longer the first time around are going to go that much longer this second time around, and maybe even one more on this. We'll wait and see. So Connell, Hassler, and Turner go through. On the ground for all of those, Capel and Kelly. I wonder if there's going to be some cars with very sketchy tyres by the end of this.
Yeah, we'll see. End of an hour in these kind of conditions at Sebring, they should be okay. You should just hit about the 50% warning. If you're aggressive, if you're mindful of the tyres, they should be a-okay in temps like this. I know that from having done some driving in preparations. Ooh, there was nearly an incident on pit entry, but crisis averted there for Ian Jordan, and that would have been Braden Sagassa it was. So yeah, I think the biggest thing with tyres for these cars is, of course, seem to be colder ambient or colder starting temps when they go on the car, and definitely also a tyre that now really appreciates a gentle build-up and warm-up phase, David. So for sprint racing like this, I don't think it's the right call to make unless for some reason you're burning up your tyres really aggressively in the first half of this race.
Wait and see. Certainly seems like some of the Lamborghinis were getting some heat into them. Now, Connell, of course, went 1 lap longer first stop. So if he's only just coming around to completing as many laps in this stint as the leaders did. So he'll either be pitting in or maybe considering one longer. That's a pretty shallow exit. He's pitting, but others behind him aren't. So Connell in, but Hassler and Turner an extra lap. And is that Cleland? It is. The BMWs. Am I alone in seeing a trend that it seems like it's Beamers?
You know, that's certainly looking like a trend. 2 out of 3 that have stayed out for now. Seems to be adding up. As we see another BMW carry on, it will be Brendan Grotch in the 22. He's also, sorry, no, he's actually following around. That's John Merritt.
He's behind some of the cars that have already made their second pit stop, like Fleming
Yes.
and Merritt. And of course, they're pretty quick pit stops with how tiny the fuel restriction is, and it's a pretty quick pit lane at 72 kilometers an hour. There are slower at 50.
Oh, big trouble! Exit of turn 1. Funslow. Oh, it's taken Schwecker with them as well. Who is involved? Is that Brady Stanley, maybe? Yeah, it is. Brady Stanley. Oh my word, his car has been doing the ping pong off the exit of the corner.
The front has fallen off from this angle. It's a bit of a pug-nosed Mercedes for Brady Stanley, and we will look at what caused that 3-car pileup on the exit of turn 1 between himself, Hen, and the Ferrari that came across the incident. Past the halfway point of this race, into the back half of the first Enduro round of Oz Pro-Am with Simrigs.com for this new season. Hassler and Turner are being scored in the lead, but they've still yet to make their second stops. Save for Hamish Cleland, third in the background. Lachlan Capel is only 18 seconds behind them and has made his second stop.
Yeah, going long is nice and all, but at this rate, not enough gains to make big moves up the field. We are going to go to that replay. So side by side into... Oh, so we've got Nicholas and Morrison, but watch here, Funslow, and watch, as he said, Stanley on pit exit. Oh, no, Stanley in the dirt. But no, just from that angle, Funslow just moves across, but then bounces off the tyres, gets Schwecker, and then other cars have to, well, thankfully the roads part once again as both Funslow and Stanley make to the grass to get out of dodge, as it were.
Every chance that Funslow knew they were 3 wide there, but Stanley to the extreme inside would have been blindsided to that car coming out of the pit exit. Move position here. Now, Merritt had been following Daniel Fleming very, very closely so far in this race. Here they are, side by side, coming off a very wide Sebring pit exit. And look, timing and scoring will say that position was made on track, but it was kind of made by who had the most torque in first gear, pressing the pit lane speed limiter off button. So that's a great time to make a move there on the pit exit for John Merritt, and he is up into 4th. Second pit stop out of everyone except Nicholas Tamores. So these are what you would call net race positions now. Or as our dearest friend Reese Gardner would say, the field is cleansed.
Except Jai Potts, I'm seeing also 1 stop only to his name.
No.
Jai down 26th place
I see 2.
at this moment in the race. Oh,
And
and
you should
yes.
do more digging around.
Yeah, maybe I should.
Okay, so going on right here, Brady Stanley behind Richard Brookfield, not Funslow, whom he's teammates with and Stanley had a little issue with. Flock in 21st behind them, remember, started off the 2nd row of the grid. Still in 21st outright, so in a big field of 40 cars that ought to be pretty evenly matched, it is so tough to make up all of those spots, even if you've got the car pace, much tougher than we saw from past 2.
Yes. We watch these guys. Well, particularly for Funzo and Richard Brookfield and Brady Stanley there. Sure. There we go. Tamores down the lane. So he makes it 16 laps on his opening Tuesday. Now, he's actually only gone 8 laps on that second tank as well there. So opts to go a little shorter than the opening stint, which I think is probably the right call to make, because that first stint of 8 laps surely has hurt. And doing lap times in the 204s, 203s, I'm sure that has hurt the ultimate pace of the car. We'll see if he makes it back up in the final pit stop of this race. We also see and hear that Daniel Fleming getting back through on John Merritt there, David, for 4th place.
Yeah, let's take a look then. We're at turn 3, and the Mercedes rides a lot of the curb there. It's a little out of shape as he comes into 5 there. He just doesn't get a good run off of 5. He knows it. And he's decided, no, all right, back to where I was for some of the earlier stints in the race. And the Mercedes just didn't settle after riding a lot of curb at 4.
Yeah, the curbs can be vicious here if you get up on these ones. I mean, also flatter ones like that on the inside of Le Mans, you want to get over them, but then that means you've got to hop the car over a sharp edge on the inside. And depending on how you time that, the car might not like that either, to put it mildly. But Merritt most certainly sticking to the rear bumper of that Audi there of Fleming. I don't think we'll be separating these two any time soon as they continue to work around 3rd or 4th or 5th place. Now, Sebastian Van Dell, he's only half a second off of Brock Kelly, and that feels like that's kind of been a bit of a sleeper development there, David, as the lead is up to 3.5 seconds, but these two coming ever closer.
Yeah, Van Dell in the Lamborghini, getting much, much closer. Only a couple cars in 1 minute 59s, and it's Brock Kelly, Sebastian Van Dell, Jeff Connell, and Scott Hasler. And Matt Bailey and Jordan Peter a little deeper in the field. So Van Dell's definitely moving on the last lap.
see how things go between these two, because as every lap goes by, it looks like it's going to be a case of, yeah, Lock and Cable will have to make a mistake to change things up. Another battle here on track that we can see thanks to side-by-side vision here is Jeff Connell hasn't been able to shake Scott Hazler for 6th place on the road. Slipstream definitely helping out the BMW there in a straight line. But if they can work together here, they might just have a chance of catching John Merritt and Daniel Fleming, as there's some lap traffic in between those two pairs, but not out of the picture yet, as you also got Luke Turner trying to catch up to them as well and make it, well, if they all get together, it'll be a 5-car party for 4th place there, David.
At 97% power, I'm noticing some of the Mercedes just struggling to keep up in a straight line, and it might be one of the reasons that Merritt's dropped a tiny bit back from Fleming. Connell and Hasler here, 6th and 7th through 1, and Hasler looked like he was maybe going to go out a little wide into towards turn 1. Lapped sound, David Baz in front of them, I think. Pretty distinctive cop-up. Tell you who's not missing any power. It's Chu Kang. 99% for the Ferrari.
See what he can do here, chasing their man Holiday in that BMW. Holiday actually one of the drivers to request a car change. Oh, off in the dirt there is a lapped car. And, Colin Schwecker thankfully getting out of the way of the fielders that streaks on by. But unfortunately for Colin, definitely not where he deserves to be, nor would he want to be, I'm sure, as battle here just outside
change
the top
of direction
20.
at 4 and 5 for the Mercedes, just again very similar to what we saw for Merritt. Tonkin does the same in his battle for position and class position in AM against Brendan Groach.
Still finding a way here, and this is 1, 2, 3. Yeah, this is still for just now P6 in AM class down here, even though it might say 23rd outright for Steve Tonkin, with Groch in 24th as a result. But the AM class is a little spread out.
Right? Be a good name for a batsman.
Maybe. I won't be the one to make that decision, though, I don't think.
Yeah, that's fair. You can stay away from that call. So got Connell and Hasler. A little bit of traffic presents an opportunity to Hasler. He's not able to pass Connell that time, and might have almost been just popping out of line to show the lap car, hey, I'm here as well. Don't forget about me. That door is open. Hold the door, please.
Just trying to potentially find that little something, as you said, thanks to the traffickers into the lane for, well, I would say the final time, but I think actually 20 minutes. This is probably just at the upper limit of what the cars can do on a tank of fuel. There was Chu Kang, but he'd be awfully unlucky if he's within like 1 or 2 laps short. But, well, I'm not going to be one to say that there in case it's wrong. He's rolling again, but
longest
we'll
stint
see.
he's done in this race so far has been 7 laps. So I think he went 5, 7, 7. Now stopping again with probably 10 to go. A lot of the rest of the field you've seen in these longer stints in the middle of the race where they're able to use the full fuel capacity. Everyone trying to reach 8 or 9 laps. So the fact that he's not made any 8 or 9 lap stints to this point might be putting him in a compromised position.
Yeah, you're right. It's as if he's not filled the car all the way up to what he can put in or something. And he's just going back to the starting fuel, which is about 10 litres short of the maximum refill available tonight in these races, as Tonkin and Groch still going at it nose to tail through the back half of the circuit. Cunningham, Collier and Tower, but Merck still ahead for now, and a better drive off Tower turn in particular will keep that position in the hands of the 82 as they try to get on the back bumper of Richard Brookfield for position, even though he's in pro class here, David, and just potentially consider an outright top speed. Oh, Matt Bailey again, troubles.
Ability to that Lamborghini in the long loaded corners, rear tires heating up, getting away from him. Does that cost him much in the end? At least one position it looks like there. Into Sunset we go, very wide entry. Just as he starts to tighten it up is when he catches one of the bumps, rear slides out on him, and it adjusts the rear fender on one of the tire barriers.
Yeah, I think he might have got away with that. Looks like he has in terms of mechanical black flags and such. But yeah, it does say a lot about how sensitive these cars are to it. Oh, another replay. And hustling in behind Tyson Hanma, who he's not racing with because separated classes here. They share a track, but they don't share a points table. So realistically, it is very much two separate races in one. So, for example, this potential for a move on Brock Kelly by Sebastian Vandel won't actually improve his standing as an AM class driver, because he's well and truly still P1 in that class. But hey, if you can take P2 outright, that's certainly worth a bit of ego or bonus points.
A lot of drivers doing a chunk of fuel saving, and Vandel, one of them. I saw it into Sunset Bend there. He rolled out super early. Kelly pits. Uh-oh. Maybe that rear suspension isn't right.
That or the tires still superheated, but now the front right corner definitely feeling the burn. Well, there's your current race leader now, thanks to the fact that Lachlan Capel and Brock Kelly have taken to the lane. John Merritt will go through another lap, as will Jeff Connell and Scott Hazler and Luke Turner and Hamish Cleland sneaks through as well.
It says 9 laps to go from here. So you've got a lot of drivers who've done 8 lap stints, and now they're going to have to do 9 to get to the end. Well, there's a few drivers now doing 9 in this stint that should be able to push pretty hard in an 8 lap stint to the end, and it includes Vandel, Merritt, and I think, Ben Holiday for good measure as well.
It's a good point to make. I mean, I would think someone like Lachlan Capel's experienced enough with the AusPass format, as that's what looks it is slow. That's a slow-moving BMW.
Well, because he's trying to do 9 laps on this stint, and I don't think he's got it. I don't think there is any left in that Beamer. That's what it looks like to me.
Oh dear. So
run out of fuel, run out of indicator fluid as well.
Well, we don't quite have the indicator mapping, and she.
I want that. Hopefully we'll get that soon. If we can map buttons to cancel low fuel warnings in Porsches, surely we can get indicators.
I have to add that one to the bucket list, I think. Now, just coming back to the conversation about fuel for guys like Lockie Capel and Brock Kelly, both of them experienced drivers in general, and Lachlan also very experienced with the AusPass rules, regs, and systems. I'd be shocked if he's come in before he can make it home without a splash and dash. And given he has such a big gap, I mean,
that's what I'm saying. You've got to save 1 lap somewhere. Personally, I'd rather do it somewhere in one of the middle stints than in the final stint.
It is the smarter move. You don't want to have to save at the end if you can avoid it. If you're under pressure as well. And realistically, it looked like just about everyone but Capel was under pressure as they go around the corner, and that now leaves just 3 cars to pit: Hazler, Turner, and Cleland. So that'll be interesting to watch. Here comes Fleming on the inside. Merritt on the outside. They'll stick together, but again, the undercut and the push from Fleming. Advantage 747 for now. Actually, well, that restores the order to what it was before they pitted, actually, if I'm not mistaken there, David.
Yeah, and they both took the same amount of fuel, but a lap apart, which stands to reason that Merritt should have more right now to push in this final stint. Still predicting that it's 8 laps for him from that stop to get to the checkered flag, and for Lachlan Capel, who will end up being the race leader once Hasler, Turner, and Cleland make their final stops. And yeah, Merritt's starting to look a little punchier here.
Yeah, we'll see if it all comes down to what you're expecting here, with drivers saving fuel early versus saving fuel late. All going to be interesting to watch in these dying minutes. As Fleming wide at tower turn, Merritt almost into the rear bumper, but picks up every skerrick of advantage he can get there, and will take that place away from the Audi. But, well, if Fleming has to fuel save, he's now in prime position because he can get dragged along the straightaways here. As long as he gets back in his rhythm through the bends. That will be Hamish... No, sorry, that'll be Scott Hazler to the lane. Hands the lead to Luke Turner, who's going to go for that 9th lap on a tank of fuel.
So he went 9 in the second stint. Of course, everyone started with less fuel than the fuel tank can hold, so it was a short opening stint for everyone. But then we get really into what the range on the stints of these cars are. So Turner went 9, doing 9 again, and we'll have then 7 to bring it home. So everyone else just kind of go 6, 8, 8, 9, or 6, 8, 9, 8.
I was looking there at the clock as well. We'll have to see where Lachlan Capel is when he gets round, or when, well, where Lachlan Capel is when he, well, timer is that.
Numbers are pretty easy here, actually, with very close to round number 2-minute laps.
So that is the point, yeah, that we're right on that 2-minute marker, more or less. So that actually should mean when Turner gets back to the pits here, we should be looking at 5 to go when he comes in, I think. Because
you've got to round up because the clock expires and then we finish that lap.
I know. Which is why I'm going to say that you then account for where Lachlan Capel's at, because he re-inherits the lead, and that 12-second delta at the moment will affect, obviously that shifts that clock back a bit and may put us in that, I think that put us in that 5-minute mark. Actually, we'll see here though. Yeah, no, I take that back. We've just clicked 11 minutes left in the race and he's already on the Allman Straight. So ignore my ramblings and mutterings. They're about 30 seconds out of sync at least.
1,000 Funslow, 34th, 35th, not in the same category as far as the points go. Turner pits from the front. Funslow making his final stop now as well. There's a lot of drivers who've made a stop recently that are hoping it's their final stop. Things could get super close. So there's just over 10 minutes as Lachlan Capel resumes the lead of the race, which means 6 more laps now. That for Capel, I think we'll have to make this a 9-lap stint. Yeah.
All right. Let's see what you got, Lockie. In terms of
then if
switching
you've
of
got to
fuel.
look further back, then so Kelly's on the same strategy in second. The drivers who can push on a little harder here: Vandel in third, Merritt in fourth, and also, yeah, Hasler, Turner, and Connell, and they're all going to be very, very close. Here's Jepson and Levin and Hanma. Tamora's also making his final stop.
A little bit of a dust cloud kicked up there in the exit one, but no major dramas as we see here Luke Turner arriving on the back bumper of Scott Hazler. Now, Jeff Connell's also come out behind these two as well. So let's have a look here.
Connell did some pretty good fuel saving early on.
Oh, he's had an absolute shocker. He lost nearly 3 seconds in the pit transit for that final stop relative to
Overshoot
Hazler.
Maybe?
I'm going to suggest that's probably a good call
Because he's
because
not lost it on pit entry. He's lost between the cones. And, you know, you should be on the pit lane speed limiter between those cones. So it probably
he's
have to be overshooting the box and needing to reverse.
and he's still in the race, so it's not like he got a penalty because that would definitely be absolutely fried. So these are the important things here. Luke Turner feeling pretty economical in that Mercedes, going way short on fuel relative to anyone else
He's not going to run out like Jack Brabham did.
in this final stint. Now, obviously went longer than most. He's only on, actually on his out lap right now from that final stop. And we're going to see a replay here of, no, it's Luke Turner.
Well, maybe we
Meaning to look at Jeff Connell, if we could rewind to his pit stop and just see exactly what he's done to put himself in behind that frog-lit BMW once again. Little moment off Le Mans for another frog-lit BMW, but Tamores and Braden Grosh keeping it somewhat clean as they fight for 20th on the road.
Here it is, the pit stop for Jeff Connell, where we think he might have overshot the crew. And yeah, that's by a bunch as well. Turner on Hasler. Hasler maybe needing to save a little bit more fuel. Turner full beans, but the Mercedes engine is turned down a tiny bit, so he's going to need to rely on fuel saving from the BMW if he's going to motor past and not outbrake or outdrive his competitor.
Just go back to our race leader for a second to continue to ask the question of, does Lachlan Capel have the fuel in that car? He's on his 5th lap of the stint. He's going to have to do, well, actually he's going to have to do another 4 from here because of his pace.
All that, the Florida coast.
So it will be that 9-lap stint that you were talking about. We've got to stay on board with him here. Just what's he do into the corner? Well, yeah, that's a nice dawdle coast into turn number 1 there, David, and lap time reflects it there on the lower third. He's got time to burn, but well, now having to put it all to the fuel saving to good use.
At the amount of pace he's dropping per lap, Vandal could get him, and we'll see if Kelly's been maybe more economical and can maybe try and catch as well. Here's Hasler, Turner, Connell. Turner looking down the inside of turn number 3, but it's a late apex there, and the door kind of always closes, and setting up for a good exit off of 5 is often a smart move. Long, flat out run. Some cars, this is the peak speed you reach on the lap is on the braking zone down into 7. So he's going to have a dive there, and he's going to get to the apex. Can he get good traction in the Mercedes? Because he's not going to win a drag race against a BMW, but if he can get good initial traction, he'll be on the correct side of the road to maybe complete this move at the next corner.
There we go. Inside for Cunningham. A little deep in the middle of the apex. We'll get the job done. Round Collier. Just as Jeff Connell wanted the way through as well, but no way through just yet.
The race leader is hemorrhaging time, big time, realizing he needs to save a lot more fuel than he expected. And we've just lost John Merritt from the server as well. Apparently he might be back, but who will win this race is absolutely up in the air, because Capel has lost another almost 2 seconds to needing to save an incredible amount of fuel. Brock Kelly in the Porsche. Can the Porsche be more efficient? But he's also being caught by Vandal, who we know saved fuel big time in the previous stint, ran a lap longer, brimmed it, and can push to the end here. What was 7 seconds between first and third is now compressed down to 3 seconds, now down to 2.9, 2.8, 2.7. Capel is in a world of trouble. Kelly could maybe hold on, and Vandal in the catbird seat.
Yep, Vandal. It's Vandal's race to lose now, because there's too much time for Lachlan Capel. he can defend some amount, and yes, he has brought Kelly on the same strategy as him, which might just give him that extra edge. But now,
3 seconds at the line. It's 1.5 now. It's 1.3 as I say it. Vondel and Kelly are going to get Lachlan Capel on this lap the way that it's trending. A similar story is playing out at a smaller scale here, where we know Turner has the fuel and Hasler and Connell need to save. Hasler driving it defensive against Connell, and the three of them close in. It's only 1 second at the race lead, top of your screen. It's underneath a second now. Brock Kelly still pushing on like he doesn't have too many concerns. Capel, he's got nothing to fight with. He's losing so much time.
yeah, going to get to the line before he sees the white flag on this occasion. As
Hasler's
the bottom of the
around
shots.
at Tower. Tough to rejoin with that angle. He's back on the racetrack, but it means Connell goes through into 7th. Turner not looking too pressed for 6th. Capel, the blowtorch on him. There's Kelly, there's Vondel, there's John Merritt even, and Daniel Fleming. I don't think a top 5 is a certainty for Lachlan Capel as they go right now. Big lift and coast for Kelly, and Vondel dives him for 2nd place. Will have the fuel and the power and the speed off of Sunset Bend to maybe lead this race towards turn number 1. No white flag. There will be 2 more laps as they cross the line. 2 minutes 15 on the clock, and here he goes. Vondel dive down the inside of turn number 1. He's not quite close enough on Capel, but he'll have plenty of other opportunity if Capel still needs to mega save.
You bet he needs to mega save, as you pointed out. He's done it. He's waited until this point in the race, which was not the time to be doing it. So I thought he would have it figured out to make sure he wasn't in this pinch point situation, but he's now going to do 2 laps defensive while saving. Vondel has got none of those restrictions. A wobble on the power. And Capel somehow doesn't absorb all of that advantage of 2 car lengths that he has to Vondel behind.
A couple of other drivers making this sort of late race splash and dashes here, but I think for Jepson it might actually be a matter of damage. There was 2 Porsches that came together out there. This is the lead of the race though, and it's playing out with the different strategies. Vondel able to push hard late into the race. I think Capel is not driving quite as conservatively as he was. He's picked up the pace somewhat from giving away 4 seconds a lap to a little closer to only giving away 1 or 2. Is he going to pit coming to the white flag, or has he saved enough that he thinks he can push again? Kelly obviously not in a position where he thinks he can push in 3rd place. And John Merritt, one of the fastest laps of the race last time around. If any of these top 3 stumble, that red and yellow Mercedes will come for him. Here's Vondel down the inside at Sunset, taking the lead of the race. Capel doesn't pit. Kelly doesn't pit. So now, for the one final lap, 17 seconds on the clock as they take the white flag, Vondel leads the AM class and leads outright.
Well, got 1 lap left in this one here, and I'd say don't rule out Lachlan Capel. Daniel Fleming has to wave the white flag, and that will be his race done here. If he's got a little bit left in the tank, he can stick with in this first half of the lap.
10. It could still be a top 10 for Fleming. He could come out around 12th or so as he just takes a tiny little splash. There's a quick pit lane transit time and a relatively quick fuel rig for these cars, and a pretty decent amount of fuel spread towards the end of the 1 hour race. So Fleming will rejoin in ninth. It is 9th place.
There you go.
I'm not going to call that catastrophic. This is our leaders here. Still within about 1 second. Kelly saving the fuel. Capel happy to be following another Lamborghini at this point, but there's no way he's going to be able to attack Vondel, surely.
No, he's holding the margin at half a second or thereabouts. If he could go on the attack, he already would have, because he needs to stay close for that run off of Le Mans to even have a chance into Sunset Bend. So this is all about consolidation now, and it just says that, well, Shaw starting from the front and running up the front. Nice and easy. Oh, a little wide off Le Mans, though. He's just been given an option back into this one here. One more turn to go here, David, and it's not done like we thought it was.
All the way to the wall. Vondel wants to defend this lead. It's not for any points. He's in the AM class fighting against a pro driver, but it is for honor, for bragging rights, and to be the first to see the checkered flag at Sebring. Capel wants to cut back underneath him in Sunset Bend, but won't be able to do it. Vondel parks it there, comes off the final corner. He's our AM winner and our outright winner. Capel will still get pro winners points there in second, and Kelly in third. Merritt not too far behind them. He pushed hard on the final lap as well, but couldn't inject himself into the discussion. There's a few other drivers with the low fuel light blaring who might lose a handful of spots on this final lap. There you see that Lamborghini in a world of hurt.
And just how many other drivers that we haven't had a chance to look at yet tonight in this final stint on Struggle Street.
This is for big points in the AM division here as well, between Grotch, Wood and Tonkin.
Yeah,
For third in their class. It looks like Grotch has got that at the moment. I'm not sure how his fuel is going. His fuel should be good. It's Nick Wood who might need to worry. Unless Grotch has short-fueled it. Tonkin, what can you do? Grotch looks down the inside there. And 3 ways off the Sunset Bend. All of them look to have fuel to make it to the line. Third, fourth, and fifth in class there for Grotch, Wood and Tonkin. Harry Lawrence got second in that class.
Yeah,
Who else is
close
struggling?
fights to the end. I just saw back in 25th place, Jamie Blackman is on his 10th lap of a stint in the Ferrari, in one of the Ferraris.
In that Ferrari?
Yes, in that white Ferrari that is now in limp home mode, unfortunately, for his case. So, see here, the good old cough.
Got no fuel. I've got no fuel. Copy. We are looking. Plan A still looks good. It doesn't look good. He's out of fuel, and this is going to cost him a lot of positions because he's going to be the last car left on the lead lap. Everyone who could pass him has. Caleb Bellac just went through. We saw Jai Potts and Ben Holiday get him. If you park and tow, you'll get the same position now, Jamie Blackman, but he's trying. He wants that checkered flag. He wants that Sebring sunset finish.
Well, just having a look at it here. No, if he doesn't make it to the line, Ben Pollock, who's coming down the Ullman Straight, would get him. Blackman rolls it. He will just get to the line, though, as Pollock enters Sunset Bend, about 10 seconds behind now. And that'll be 28th outright. And probably somewhere around 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,
Pollock,
9, 10, 13th in class.
I think you'll find Pollock actually did take the checkered flag, but what happened was he was in the pit lane, in his pit box, when the leader came around and took the checkered flag. Pollock passed the checkered flag in pit lane on his exit and went around and completed the lap. I could be wrong, but I suspect that's what's happened. Pollock might have been scored as having actually already taken the checkered flag, but you wouldn't know it if you were in pit lane at the time. What a race.
I think a fascinating one there for the first Enduro of the season, indeed. And, well, the fuel strategy became all the more critical here tonight. Here are your top 10, and that lone AM class car of Seb Vondel breaking up the pro class monotony that dominates the rest of the board. Nearly 3/10 clear of Lachlan Capel there across the line. Brock Kelly, the other driver, inside of a second to round out your outright podium there this evening. John Merritt in 4th place in the first of the Mercs, ahead of Luke Turner. There in 5th place, Jeff Connell. Next of our Porsches in 6th gets, well, Scott Hazler then drops back to 7th there towards the end. Hamish Cleland for 8th. Daniel Fleming, unfortunately, that late stop for him, dropping back into 9th place, with Jordan Peter to round out the top 10 there in the number 49. Quiet night for him here, David. We didn't get a chance to talk about him much.
I think that's a good thing in a 40-car field and all the incidents we saw and drivers running out of fuel, all that. If you don't have your name on our lips, probably things are going okay for you, if not spectacular. So yeah, the remainder there, you got Brandon Levin, Sebastian Flock, Brady Standley. You get into sort of second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth of the AM division there with Harry Lawrence, who gained 4 positions, Brandon Groch, Nick Wood, Stephen Tonkin from 37th on the grid outright to 4th in class, not bad, ahead of Hanma and Jepson. And then Christopher Henn, I think a lot of those iLEC Lamborghinis didn't have quite the race they were planning on. Got Ben Jeffrey, Chu Kang, Richard Brookfield, Jeffrey Wang, Jai Potts, Ben Holiday, Caleb Bellac, Jamie Blackman. It does say Ben Pollock, 29th, not 1 lap down. So, yeah, interesting on that one. He pit coming to the white flag. And you've got Adam Funslow, 30th. By that measure, the first car a lap down. Just keeping in mind that a lap should be 2 minutes. So, to finish 2 minutes 40 back, not a great final lap for those drivers. Got David Baz, Ian Jordan, Jordan Ferguson, Nicholas Timoris, who really tried to save fuel early on. It didn't quite work to the end as he was actually involved in a little bit of contact. Got Colin Schwecke, Hamish Monroe, Braden Sagasar, Tom Slaprak, Matt Bailey, and I think it's retirements here for Phil Orty, Derek Orty, Dale Carpenter, and the big one, the man who was leading the championship coming into this race, Ross Rizzo.
Yeah, unfortunately for Ross, opting to retire after that early contact rather than see what could be salvaged. Then again, there are drop rounds, so they do have some flexibility. And with that, it's time to go to our interviews. And, well, usually we go to our pro class driver first, David, but I think it's better to go chat with the man who got the outright win tonight and hand back to you to have a chat with Sebastian Vandel here.
Yeah, AM winner, pro winner. If you want to think of it like that, we get to wrap this up quick tonight then. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. It was definitely a good fun race tonight with some definite fuel strategy there in the middle and last stint there.
Yeah, it looked like for almost every driver, every car, there had to be one of the 3 of the back stints where you had to save that extra lap. What point did you figure it was going to be a good move to opt to do that early?
After the second stop, I'm like, it's probably going to be better to do it during the middle stint if I can get back onto the back of the P2 and save a bit of fuel in the draft. So that's sort of what I aimed to do, and it's what I did. And then I saved that extra lap in the middle stint, which meant I could push for the whole last stint, and just got lucky there in the dying stages.
And how about the Lamborghini then? Because we've got this rolling balance of performance that should give every car a good fighting shot. But Sebring, it definitely looks like it favors some cars more than others with how aggressive those bumps and curbs are.
Yeah, definitely. I haven't driven too many of the other GT cars, but I changed from the McLaren to the Lambo in between round 1, and because I drove the Lambo and it just felt really good around here and like most of the other tracks.
Now, more congratulations heading your way, because you've won the $20 Super Cheap Auto gift card, making it super, taking the outright win as the AM class driver.
That's awesome. I'll take that.
Yeah, absolutely. Any day of the week, I think you would. There's always something you'll find to do with that. And I mean, thinking, I guess, championship then, even though there was a large gulf between you and second in class, they still score second class points. So with all the remaining wild cards, different formats, different tracks, you can't take your foot off the throttle on this one.
Nah, definitely not. And I didn't have the best round 1 last week. I had to pull out halfway through the race because I was a bit sick and vomiting and that. But it was good to score some good points this round to bounce back.
I think you'll be feeling much more super after round 2. Congratulations, and I'm guessing you've got a couple people to thank.
Yeah, definitely. Just big thanks to Pursuit Sim Racing and all the boys there for helping me out with just learning the track and getting used to it, and the team sponsors V&M Simulation, Sideways Photography, and MRP.
All right, looking forward to catch you in a week at the Wildcard at Zandvoort.
So, looking forward to it. See you then.
Sebastian Vondel helping us power through our interviews because he's not just the AM winner, he's the outright winner. And who should speak to the next man?
I mean, I was all ready to give him a quick chat. I can certainly, well,
Yeah, you can be all ready to gas him up or do the opposite.
a little bit of both ways as we bring Lachlan Capel into the interview booth. And, well, Lockie, you started that one up front. Qualifying was looking quite good for you there, but unfortunately caught out there by the fuel calculations in the final phase of the race, it seems.
Yeah, look, in my defense, this was probably quite a bit of an oversight from me, but I only realized this was an Enduro 20 minutes into practice because I don't read things, and I'm too busy doing everything else. So I was like, oh yeah, I could do it well. And then the different cycling and fuel gaps between Connell, Luke Turner, and I threw my fuel calculator a bit. And then after the final sim, once they all got through, I was like, surely it'll click back over to what it was before. And then all of a sudden I read in my dash and it says needed fuel 2.2 liters. And yeah, I could have started saving probably a lap earlier, but yeah, I'm quite lucky the fact that I was able to still snag P2 with I had enough fuel to go it around the first corner, so I could have maybe pressured him a little bit off of his mistake he made, but he just parked the bus well enough where nothing I could have done would have got by him.
So, okay, yeah, fair enough. Obviously, yeah, as you said, the way fuel calculators are going to be adjusting based on who's staying out in the middle of the race and how they'll update things. I guess you built that lead in that mid phase. Was there any, I guess, and as a result, so there was no concern until you finished that final stop that you were going to be short there in that final part of the race?
Oh, no, there was no concern until I was probably 3 laps into my final stint. Yeah. Huge oversight from me. Am I slightly salty that I didn't get the win? Yes, but congratulations to Vondel anyway, because he was bloody quick all night. He had the fastest lap, I believe, and showed us all a little bit. But it would have been nice to have that 10-second plus gap, or nearly 10-second gap I had on the line. But you know, Sam loves to chuck a little bit of a spanner in terms of fuel numbers into this race, so yeah, one of the unfortunate ones to get caught out by it tonight.
Well, definitely unfortunate in a sense, but at the same time, as you've alluded to, you still get the class win, able to finish ahead of Brock, so for all intents and purposes, it doesn't change the end result for your start of the season in the pro class, looking to get your 3rd title here in AusPass. And how are you sort of feeling out here in the Lamborghini for this season?
Well, I had to talk to Seb before the season started, and he was happy to stay in a Lambo, and I thought I'd try it this season, and it just feels a lot better compared to any other of the cars. It was hyper for the first race if I didn't get taken out by Brock Kelly and Vondel's mistake that they made on the start, and then it should be hyper for the rest of the season as well as tonight. Only one little thing I have about it is probably Nords might be a bit iffy because I'm used to running a Beamer there, but look, if I end up falling below the top 5, I damn know well I will be switching to the Beamer for that track. So yeah, I've still got a couple of cards up my sleeves in case I have any mishaps through the end of the season. But look, tonight, as you said, still walking away with a P1. Not outright P1, but still technically counts, so I'll take that with what I will and move on to the next round.
Oh, well, best of luck for the rest of it. Unfortunately, I can't be there to watch it, but you'll have the rest of the SimSpeed team here to keep their eyes and ears on the action. Before that you go tonight, Lockie, who do you want to thank for the result?
Big shout out to Drop Bear Motorsport and all their sponsors of Encozy Engineering Solutions, Sam Blacklock Media, Hybrid Racing Solutions, and Revolution Race Gear. And a big shout out to you guys for putting on the broadcast. I'm sure it'll be a great thing to watch back today and tomorrow while I'm doing my assignments. And yeah, shout out as well to Seb Vondel again for he had a lot of pace tonight. I could have probably pushed a little bit more, but yeah, he had probably a little bit more pace than any of us. And as well as that to Ross, who got taken out by NDM spin checkup on lap 1, turn 2. So I'm unfortunate to him. Hopefully he can bounce back in the next couple of races.
Yeah, well, look forward to hearing how things go for you. And yeah, looking forward to hopefully hearing about another good season for AusPass, all things done. Well, that'll do us for tonight here, David. And as we see what's coming up next, Zandvoort, and as you mentioned at the start of the broadcast, the Wildcard returning once again here, round 3 of Season 9.
Yeah, Sebring turned on the action for our GT Championship, but it's time to leave it behind and leave the GTs behind for next round with the past 2 competitors racing in Formula Vs and our Pro-Am guys in the Toyota GR86, which is actually a very exciting and close and competitive race car. So we can all look forward to that. Some will love it, some will dread it because it is for championship points. But it will be good watching, no doubt, and you'll see it here on SimSpeed TV, same time next week. Thanks to all the Oz Pro-Am Sim Series partners, Simrigs.com, Exodus Racing, Super Cheap Auto helping us make each race super, Echuca Toyota, and Index Designs. We'll catch you next week at Zandvoort.
So you do like it?
I love it, yeah.
Yeah.
Now when you go pre-owned, you can enjoy the same feeling you get with a new Toyota. Tested and backed by Toyota.
Upgrade your car, mate.
This? Yeah, no big deal.
Toyota certified. Pre-owned in a class of its own. Oh, what a feeling. Toyota.